My name is Crystal Thorne, and I was 33 years old the weekend my mother-in-law threw my son's crib into the trash. My husband, Daniel, was deployed overseas. I was serving a mandatory Army drill weekend nearly 2 hours away. When I finally drove back onto my street, I saw something that made my stomach drop. 4 white crib slats were sticking out of the gray trash bin at the curb. My son's crib. At that moment, I knew something had gone terribly wrong. My son Noah was only 10 weeks old. Like most military parents, I planned everything carefully. Before leaving for drill, I had arranged for my trusted friend Dana to watch Noah. She was the approved caregiver listed on my official family care plan, a military requirement that documented exactly who would care for my child when duty called. Everything was organized. Everything was documented. Everything was supposed to be safe. The one person I never trusted with Noah was my mother-in-law, Linda. Linda had hated my military career from the day Daniel introduced us. She constantly hinted that a mother belonged at home, not in uniform. She believed military life made me selfish. What I eventually learned was that her bitterness came from her own past. Her husband had spent years in the Army before dying young, leaving her to raise Daniel alone. But pain doesn't excuse cruelty, and Linda had turned her pain into something dangerous. The morning I left for drill, Dana arrived on schedule. I kissed Noah goodbye, reviewed the care instructions one final time, and headed to the reserve center. For part of the exercise, our phones were locked away. For 2 hours, I had no way to know what was happening at my house. Later, I learned everything. Around 10 that morning, Linda arrived with Daniel's sister, Brenda. When Dana answered the door holding Noah, Linda walked inside as if she owned the place. "We're family," she said. Dana refused to leave. Linda insisted. Dana tried calling me, but my phone was locked away. Eventually, overwhelmed and unable to reach me, Dana left after sending several urgent messages. The second she pulled away, Linda took control. She walked into Noah's nursery and decided she hated it. She said it looked too military, too plain, too much like me. Without permission, she opened cans of paint she had brought with her and began repainting the room. Then she did something worse. She picked Noah up from his crib and placed him on an adult bed in another room, an unsafe sleeping environment for a newborn. Then she and Brenda carried the crib outside, the crib I had assembled myself, the crib where Noah slept safely every night, the crib holding the last blanket my late mother had ever knitted. They threw it all into the trash. Crib, bedding, blanket, everything. As she looked at the trash bin, Linda reportedly smiled and said, "No Army brat is going to ruin my son's house." She thought she was fixing a problem. She had no idea she was creating one. That afternoon, a nurse named Miss Calloway arrived for a scheduled home visit. She immediately noticed the crib sticking out of the trash. She smelled fresh paint. She saw signs that something wasn't right. When Linda tried to send her away, Miss Calloway became concerned. As a mandated reporter, she had a legal obligation to act, so she filed an official report. That single phone call changed everything. When my drill ended and I finally turned my phone back on, dozens of messages flooded my screen. Then I saw Dana's photo. The crib, in the trash. I felt sick, but panic wouldn't help my son. I drove home, fast. The moment I entered the house, the smell of paint hit me. I found Noah sleeping where Linda had left him. I picked him up immediately and carried him outside for fresh air. Then I looked into the trash bin, and there it was, my mother's handmade blanket, thrown away like garbage. That was the moment something inside me hardened. Not rage, resolve. I took Noah directly to the doctor. Thankfully, he was healthy. After that, I began documenting everything: photos, messages, times, witnesses, every detail. I gathered every piece of evidence and organized it into the binder I had spent years maintaining. For a long time, people had teased me for being overly careful. Now that carefulness was about to save me. What I didn't know was that the report had already triggered a formal investigation. Because I was an active duty service member, Child Protective Services and Military Family Advocacy had both become involved. The process was already moving, and Linda thought it was moving against me. She was wrong. Over the weekend, she confidently told people I was an irresponsible mother. She believed authorities would finally see what she had been saying for years. By Monday morning, she was convinced she had won. Then the caseworker arrived. Linda immediately launched into her story. She described me as an absent mother who cared more about the Army than her child. She painted herself as the concerned grandmother trying to save Noah. The caseworker listened carefully. Then she turned to me. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply handed over my binder. The family care plan, my drill orders, the approved caregiver paperwork, the medical records, Dana's statements, the photographs. Every document told the same story. The approved caregiver had been removed from the home by Linda. The unsafe conditions had been created by Linda. The crib had been discarded by Linda. The more evidence the caseworker reviewed, the quieter Linda became. Then came the moment everything changed. A government vehicle pulled into the driveway. Linda smiled. She assumed the Army had arrived to expose me. She couldn't have been more wrong. The front door opened. My commander, Captain Doyle, stepped inside. He looked around the room. Then he saw me. Without hesitation, he came to attention, and in front of everyone present, he raised his hand in a formal salute. "Sergeant Thorne." The room went silent. Linda stared at me. For years, she had mocked me as a woman pretending to be a soldier. For years, she had treated my service as a hobby. Now, she was watching an Army captain publicly recognize exactly who I was. The expression on her face said everything. Captain Doyle then confirmed what the evidence already showed. My record was exemplary. My care plan was valid. My actions had been responsible. The investigation wasn't focused on me. It was focused on the person who created the danger, Linda. The caseworker formally concluded that the allegations against me were unsubstantiated. The evidence showed that Noah's safety had been compromised by Linda's actions, not mine. Just like that, the story Linda had spent years telling collapsed. But I wasn't interested in revenge. When the caseworker asked what I wanted, my answer surprised everyone. I didn't ask for punishment. I didn't ask for an apology. I simply said, I want her removed from every caregiver list connected to my son. That was enough. Linda lost all unsupervised access to Noah. She was required to complete parenting and family advocacy classes before any future contact could even be considered. Then Daniel called from overseas. He had learned what happened. The moment he heard the truth, he sided with me. He told his mother she would not be alone with Noah again. The call lasted only minutes, but it ended any doubt about where he stood. In the weeks that followed, the investigation closed. The report officially cleared me. The documentation remained, the evidence remained, and the truth remained. Eventually, Daniel came home and helped me assemble a new crib. The nursery was repaired. The blanket was washed and saved. Life slowly returned to normal, but the lesson stayed with me. People used to think my lists, paperwork, and preparation were signs of fear. They weren't. They were signs of love. Because when someone tried to rewrite the truth, those records stood where emotions couldn't. My mother left Noah a blanket. I left him a paper trail. Both were acts of protection, and in the end, neither one could be thrown away.